Gabe, as you point out, the third shutdown of the second Trump administration as this one drags on. The White House also remains on the defense when it comes to their handling of the Epstein files. What's the latest there?
Yeah, Craig, over the weekend in a letter sent to Congress, Attorney General Pam Bondi said the Justice Department has released all of the millions of the Epstein files required by law. But some lawmakers are arguing that release is still insufficient and that there are still crucial files missing. The DOJ also provided a long list of more than 300 high-profile names mentioned in the files, but critics from both parties.
Hey guys, Adam is here. All right, so Pam Bondi just got absolutely destroyed in Congress. And I mean destroyed. She walked into a hearing claiming she had released all the Epstein files, everything the DOJ has, nothing being hidden. And then a Republican prosecutor, someone who is supposed to be on her side, stood up with receipts and proved she was lying.
So I ask you, Attorney General Pam Bondi, why did you shut down this investigation last July, and why have you not prosecuted former Prince Andrew?
I don't believe you asked Merrick Garland these questions when he was Attorney General and set before.
I agree with you.
You twice.
I've been claiming my time. I agree with you. I agree with you. During the Biden administration, I called for people looking at Epstein files. Merrick Garland dropped the ball, as did Attorney General Bill Barr, as did Alex Acosta, a whole string of failures. But you are in charge. You have the power to change things, to hold these men accountable, and you're doing the opposite. You're protecting them. So I want to move on to another man.
Can I answer
Donald
that,
Trump.
though?
I want to move on to another question.
Can I answer your question about protecting?
You answered the question.
You're saying no. I love this.
I want to discuss another man, Donald Trump, who is all over the Epstein files.
He pulled out a list of specific documents that Bondi never released. Internal memos, draft indictments, DOJ emails, stuff that the law explicitly requires her to turn over. And Bondi had no answer. She just sat there as her entire defense fell apart on live television.
Calling that decision a way to muddy the waters and to distract from who really is a predator.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching. And don't forget, you can catch the Today Show every morning on NBC or take Today when you're on the go. Just follow the Today podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.
This is huge because Bondi has been hiding behind this claim that she has released everything for weeks now, and a member of her own party just proved that is not true. Here is what happened. Bondi sent Congress a letter on February 14th claiming that all Epstein files the DOJ holds under the Transparency Act have been released. She included a list of about 340 names that appear in the documents. And she basically said, "We are done, there is nothing else, stop asking." But Congress was not buying it because the files Bondi released were heavily redacted, huge sections blacked out, key names missing, and lawmakers from both parties kept saying, "This does not look like everything. This looks like you are still hiding stuff." And Bondi kept insisting, "No, we released everything the law requires. There is nothing being withheld." Well, that claim just got demolished. At a follow-up hearing, a Republican lawmaker who is also a former prosecutor came prepared. He had internal DOJ inventories, oversight correspondence, and specific citations to documents that Bondi never turned over, and he went through them one by one in front of Congress and the cameras. An 86-page prosecution memo from the Southern District of New York, a draft indictment from Florida targeting Epstein co-conspirators, internal DOJ emails discussing why certain people were not charged, all of it specifically referenced in prior litigation and internal records. All of it required under the Epstein Files Transparency Act, and none of it released by Bondi's DOJ. The lawmaker did not just say these documents exist. He proved it. He cited the specific case files where they are mentioned. He referenced the internal inventories that list them. He showed that the DOJ knew about these documents, cataloged them, and deliberately chose not to include them in the public release. So Bondi cannot claim she did not know they existed. She cannot claim they are not relevant. She cannot claim anything except that she got caught lying to Congress about releasing everything. And this was not some Democrat trying to score political points. This was a Republican, someone who should be on Bondi's side. But he was so fed up with the cover-up that he brought the receipts and exposed her in public. And Bondi had no good answer. She tried to claim that some documents are protected by deliberative process privilege, a legal doctrine that protects internal government discussions. But the problem with that defense is the Transparency Act specifically overrides those protections for Epstein files. The law says you have to release internal memos and emails explaining why prosecutors did or did not charge people. That is literally in the statute. So Bondi cannot hide behind deliberative process. The law stripped that protection away, and she knows it, but she is still trying to use it as an excuse because she has got nothing else. This revelation destroys Bondi's entire defense strategy. For weeks, she has been telling Congress and the public that everything has been released, that there is full transparency, that anyone complaining is just being political. But now we have proof that is not true. We have specific documents that she withheld. We have evidence that she knew these documents existed and chose not to release them. And we have a member of her own party calling her out for it in public. The contempt case against Bondi just got way stronger. Before, she could claim it was complicated and she was doing her best. But now Congress can point to concrete examples where she lied about what she had released. That is not a compliance issue. That is obstruction. And the implications are massive. Because if Bondi lied about these documents, what else is she lying about? What other files is she hiding? Are there more memos, more emails, more draft indictments? How many names are still being protected? The documents Bondi is hiding apparently explain why certain Epstein associates were not charged. That means there are people who prosecutors thought could be charged but decided not to. And Bondi is sitting on the memos that explain who those people are and why they got a pass. That is exactly what Congress and the public demanded transparency about. And Bondi is the one blocking it. So now she is facing even more pressure. The contempt proceedings that were already moving forward just got a huge boost because Congress can now point to specific lies Bondi told. They can show she misled them about what was released. And they can argue that her continued refusal to turn over these documents is willful obstruction that deserves the harshest penalties. Daily fines, detention, impeachment, all of it is back on the table. And this time, Bondi does not have the defense that it is just politics because a Republican prosecutor is the one who exposed her. Her own side turned on her, and that makes this so much worse for Bondi politically and legally. Let us dig into exactly what documents Bondi is hiding and why this is such a big deal. The Epstein Files Transparency Act was not just about releasing investigative files like police reports and witness statements. It specifically required the DOJ to release internal documents explaining prosecutorial decisions, why certain people were investigated, why some were charged and others were not, what evidence prosecutors had, and what legal theories they considered. All of that had to be made public under the law, and that is the stuff Bondi has been hiding. The first major document confirmed missing is an 86-page prosecution memo from the Southern District of New York. This is a detailed internal document that SDNY prosecutors wrote analyzing the Epstein case and making recommendations about who should be charged. These memos are incredibly important because they lay out the evidence prosecutors had, the potential charges they considered, and the reasons for their decisions. In Epstein's case, those memos would identify other people involved, complicit associates, enablers, and maybe even clients. And we know this memo exists because it is referenced in court filings from Epstein-related civil cases. Lawyers representing victims cited it, judges acknowledged it, and it is part of the official record that this document exists. So Bondi cannot claim it does not exist. The memo is real, the DOJ has it, and Bondi chose not to release it. The second major missing document is a draft indictment from Florida targeting Epstein co-conspirators. This is also confirmed to exist through court references and internal DOJ records. A draft indictment means prosecutors got far enough in their investigation to actually write up formal charges against specific people. They identified co-conspirators by name. They laid out the criminal conduct. They prepared to go to a grand jury. But then something happened and the indictment was never filed. Maybe political pressure, maybe a deal, maybe someone powerful intervened. We do not know. But the draft indictment would tell us who those co-conspirators were and what they were going to be charged with. And that is explosive information because if prosecutors were ready to charge Epstein associates and then backed off, the public deserves to know who those people are and why they were not prosecuted. Were they protected because of their wealth, their political connections, their relationship with someone in power? The draft indictment would answer those questions, and Bondi is sitting on it. The third category of missing documents is internal DOJ emails discussing prosecutorial decisions. According to the Republican lawmaker who exposed this, there are extensive email chains between DOJ officials, FBI agents, and prosecutors discussing the Epstein investigation and related cases. These emails would show the internal debate about who to charge, what evidence they had, what obstacles they faced, and potentially who was putting pressure on them not to charge certain people. This is the kind of behind-the-scenes transparency that the Transparency Act was designed to force into the public. But Bondi has been hiding behind deliberative process privilege to keep these emails secret. The problem is Congress specifically wrote the Transparency Act to override that privilege for Epstein files. The law says internal memos, emails, and notes have to be released even if they are normally protected. So Bondi cannot legally use deliberative process to hide these emails. The statute overrides it, but she is trying to do it anyway. Now let us talk about the redactions, because that is another huge problem. The files Bondi did release are heavily redacted. Huge black boxes cover names, entire paragraphs are blacked out, and key details are missing. When Congress asked why so much was redacted, Bondi claimed it was to protect victim privacy and ongoing investigations. But legal experts say that does not justify the extent of the redactions. Victim names can be redacted, that is legitimate. But you cannot redact the names of perpetrators and associates. That defeats the entire purpose of transparency. And we know from lawmakers who have seen unredacted versions that the names being hidden are not just victims. Al Jazeera reported that at least 6 prominent names were redacted from documents, which members of Congress later read into the public record. So these are names of people connected to Epstein's operation, people who were involved or knew what was happening, and Bondi is hiding them. The political fallout from this is severe because Bondi is not just facing pressure from Democrats anymore. She has got Republicans calling her out publicly. The prosecutor who exposed her is a conservative. He is someone who should be defending her. But he was so bothered by the cover-up that he brought the receipts and humiliated her in public. That tells you how bad this is. When your own party is turning on you, when people who should be allies are exposing your lies, you are in serious trouble. This completely changes the contempt proceedings. Before, Bondi could argue that compliance was complicated and she was doing her best. But now Congress has proof that she lied. They can point to specific documents she said did not exist or were not required that actually do exist and are required. They can show she misled them about what was released. That is not a good faith disagreement about the law. That is obstruction. That is contempt. And it makes the case for holding her accountable much stronger. The impeachment talk is also getting much louder because lying to Congress is serious. Misleading lawmakers in testimony is potentially a crime. And if Bondi continues to refuse to release these documents even after being exposed, that could be an impeachable offense. High crimes and misdemeanors include obstructing congressional oversight and defying federal law. Bondi is doing both, so the calls for impeachment that we're already building are going to get much louder now, especially with Republicans joining in. The bottom line is this: Bondi's entire defense strategy just collapsed. She claimed she released everything. A Republican prosecutor proved that was a lie. And now she is facing consequences that include fines, detention, and impeachment. The files she is hiding apparently explain why certain Epstein associates were not charged, who they are, what evidence existed against them, and who made the decision to let them walk. That is exactly what the public demanded transparency about. And Bondi is the one blocking it. So Congress is moving forward with the harshest penalties available, and Bondi is running out of places to hide.